Buses Jubilutile and Clark Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program today. And we do hope that you're having a very, very blessed one. And again, apologies for our late start. It was a matter beyond our control, and we do hope that you're still locked on to Radio Caribbean International. One of the things, just a bit of catch up in terms of some of the stuff we touched on earlier this week. One of those was the matter of Cuba and the unfortunate times that have befallen the people of Cuba. Certainly very, very difficult period for them in their history. As the saying goes, when it rains, it pours. And Cuba is unfortunately experiencing quite a torrent of adversity at this time. Partly, of course, because of the impacts of a hurricane quite recently hitting its shores, but it has been also dealing with the long-standing bad weather of the embargoes and the sanctions that have been placed on it for decades now. I think this country of Cuba certainly has been one of the most resilient ever. That they would effectively be in this state of siege thanks to embargoes that have been impacting their ability to simply survive, and they have been able to do that, and in very many respects they've even been able to thrive despite all of these things in years gone by through partners, but unfortunately it's becoming a lot more difficult for them to be able to do so. Of course, Venezuela was one of its major players, major partners in the Caribbean. Of course, both countries sharing a side of the Caribbean Sea, and we too have known the rising sanctions that Venezuela itself has been dealing with, has been grappling with over the years as well, and their own economic challenges being experienced there. Now, of course, in both instances, these countries, at some point in time in their history, were really the best friends of the United States of America, in that there were lots of American-owned businesses in both Cuba as well as in Caracas. And in fact, in particular, in the case of Caracas, one point in time, it was known to be one of the wealthiest countries in the Americas, wealthiest cities in the Americas. And Venezuela at one point was doing fantastically well, thanks to the oil boom. And unfortunately, we've seen how even beyond that, and the rise of Hugo Chavez and his left-leaning government, still was doing very, very well. But unfortunately, we've seen a tremendous impact on these countries thanks to trade sanctions and embargoes by what is undoubtedly the most powerful country on the earth. And so in the case of Cuba, they have certainly gotten to a very, very difficult state in their history, with the impact being felt in nearly every sector, including that, of course, of even the basics like being able to turn on the lights. So all of these things are in fact being impacted. It's a country of tremendous history and heritage, number of World Heritage sites existing in Cuba, and of course it had a very long colonial history Spanish rule, and so a number of very lovely cities have in fact been even named World Heritage Sites, like Cienfuegos, I believe. And so certainly we have a lot to learn from them in terms of heritage conservation, in terms of how they have developed their culture and institutions to a very, very high standard and degree, to the point that, of course, they have professionals who quite often they, in fact, do share their expertise with other parts of the Caribbean in many different areas. And of course, even as of now, in particular in our healthcare sector, it is one of the most notable achievements of Cuba, that of its health system over the years. So again, an appeal, no doubt, being made from many quarters that it is certainly a time for the Caribbean to look to see what can in fact be done in terms of its partnerships within the Caribbean. I mean, we're looking at some very good efforts at play, in terms of relationships with Africa, the African continent, but certainly right here in the Caribbean, we certainly have some ways to go in terms of our intra-regional cooperation and development agenda. And Cuba, 10 million people. The same can be said for Haiti, for example. Another 10 million people in those two countries. And so how we cooperate as a region can in fact stand to benefit us in the long term, in having better opportunities to sell and to promote what the Caribbean does well. Cuba is interesting because it's shown us that we can in fact be very, very strong in the sun, sea, and sand in terms of the tourism sector, and of course that's one of the great appeals for Cuba. Lots and lots of white sandy beaches and coral reefs and beautiful coastlines. But of course, it has also balanced that out with a very high interest in its cultural attractions and cultural heritage, for arts, crafts, history, architecture, the entire gamut. But beyond that, it has also shown that the importance of technology and leveraging science and technology for the benefit of economic development and progress. And in as much as we are right now speaking so much about not being left behind in this current era of artificial intelligence, it's one thing to be speaking about artificial intelligence just simply from the perspective of, hey, well, how can we use it? But the other major big question is, how are we not just using it, but how can we in fact be developers of it? How can we in fact be on the side of the actual development and progress of the technology itself? And we've quite often been too many steps back when it comes to that. And Cuba has shown that it is in fact possible to make good progress in certain pursuits, and they've been able to do so pretty well in the biological and medical sciences, pharmaceuticals, for example, and so certainly there is in fact the possibility that the Caribbean can play its part in that global thrust, which we are seeing right now, so that we won't be left behind in this ongoing boom period, in this ongoing new industrial revolution. That's our dish of the day. At this point, we're going to head to take in our weather report, thanks to the St. Lucia Met Services.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Because if unbeatable cost. Customer service, A plus, this all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasware and vanity. Pots, doors, you'll see. Come down to my nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Brazil, and Flag Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Island style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island style, we got the time that will make you happy. Island style, oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island style.
We have tiles and king sets, mixes and ground. Everything you need is on the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa and Rodney Bay on the John Compton Highway, Castries, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And also, of course, to the 1.4, it's now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bath. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between the east, northeast, and east near 12 miles per hour or 19 kilometers per hour, becoming lighter at times. The weather partly cloudy to cloudy at times with a few scattered showers and a chance of isolated thunderstorms during the afternoon. The forecast for the Los Angeles is partly cloudy to cloudy at times with scattered showers and a chance of isolated thunderstorms. And the tropical weather outlook. A weak low-level trough will generate an increase in moisture and marginable instability, resulting in a few periods of cloudiness with some showers and possibly isolated thunderstorms across parts of the region during the forecast period. A tropical wave located over the central tropical Atlantic is moving westward near 17 miles per hour or 28 kilometers per hour. This wave is expected to generate an increase in cloudiness with scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms across parts of the region from tomorrow, Thursday into Friday. And this was your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island Style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island Style, we got the time that will make you happy. Island Style, oh yeah, we make your dream come alive in Island Style.
We have tiles and king sets, mixes and ground. Everything you need is on the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality, price, service, choice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa and Rodney Bay on the John Compton Highway, Castries, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom at Radio Caribbean International. Of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, it is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And you can also message in to our WhatsApp number. That is 724-0008. Again, 724-0008. As mentioned yesterday, I mean, there is that ongoing artificial intelligence AI summit conference going on at the Royalton St. Lucia. And we spoke last week to two representatives, organizers of that, including Dr. Gail Rigobert and Mr. Javed Samuel. And of course, there's been quite a lot of interest globally about the continuing advancement of artificial intelligence technologies. Of course, it is also a period of catch up for many of the players, many of the tech players in and of themselves, because they too have to be trying to keep up with the pace of change in this regard. So you're seeing even large players like Apple are coming out and launching their own AI platforms for their phones, and you're seeing, of course, different players. Microsoft has come on with Bing and some of the co-pilot, it's called, I think. And so beyond the chat GPTs and the many other generative AI platforms that are already out there, you're seeing the big tech players, Google, for example, they're trying to keep up as well. And it's, of course, really important because you don't want to be the Kodak or the Nokia of this period. And it is certainly a reality that we're seeing, that even in major players, there is that possibility for some of them to, in fact, get left behind. It's an issue that we're seeing in many sectors. In the automotive industry, for the moment, for example, Germany is the largest auto player. Volkswagen, VW has itself been struggling to keep up with some of the changes in the industry, as we're seeing more and more emphasis being placed on the rise of electric vehicles. And we're seeing how Chinese companies are, in fact, dominating this new wave of change in the auto industry. And so it certainly is something of interest as well for the Chinese, because they have the means, the scale to be themselves piloting a lot of things that you would perhaps not think would be necessarily coming out first in China. And one of them is a matter of utilizing artificial intelligence and robotics in the taxi sector. And, just yesterday we were speaking about population, and China is now, in fact, at a point where it no longer is this country that can use the Louisian models of unlimited supplies of labor. This idea that there is an endless supply of labor in the rural parts of China, and these individuals will continue to be flocking into the cities, and tens of millions of people every year at a time. That's changing. That's definitely slowing down, and so they are facing their own population concerns. And invariably, a lot of these situations, it is actually being addressed to some degree through the use of automation, through the use of artificial intelligence in many different sectors. And even in the taxi sector, we are seeing that kind of potential disruption. Already around the world, many traditional taxi operators and unions have already felt under threat through the rise of ride-sharing platforms like Lyft and Uber, and how they've, in fact, certainly changed the scene in terms of modes of transportation. I mean, as we just noting the birthday of Safia Paul, she, being an entrepreneur, setting up St. Lucia's first ride-share platform called Ale. And along those very similar lines, that individuals can, in fact, provide a service, and that you can, in fact, be more responsive to the market demands. But of course, we've seen right there in St. Lucia, in other instances where there have been pushbacks from associations regarding turf and who has the right to operate where. That was famously the case, I think, back in terms of the operations at the Hiwanori International Airport, and who could operate taxis out of that space was a big issue. But the reality is, the way the world is moving, the issue may not even be dealing with another human being anymore providing the service. It may even be the matter of a robot providing the service, or effectively driverless cars, autonomous vehicles, and what that could potentially mean for sectors, transport providers already. So there's a very interesting little piece, I think, on that matter coming out of Al Jazeera, which is in fact available. I think we were meant to play it yesterday, but it still is pretty interesting as well. It's actually the one before that, yeah. So we're going to try to line that up for you at this time.
Hail a cab on the streets of Wuhan and you might be in for a surprise. The city's host to China's first fleet of driverless taxis. For the moment, it's just a trial project in a limited area, but it's captured the public imagination.
If it becomes popular in urban areas later on, I'll consider taking a driverless car as I live in a busy area. But for now, I'll go with a manually driven car.
It's just a new way of traveling, and one more option is a good thing. And from a safety point of view, there are no examples of it being dangerous. And that means driverless cars are reliable.
That's not entirely correct. In July this year, a man was hit by a driverless taxi that ran a red light. But public perception overall remains good. The cars are hailed with an app. The company is an offshoot of Chinese tech giant Baidu. After punching in a code, the doors unlock and you're on your way. A touch screen gives passengers control of climate and volume levels and shows obstacles on the road detected by 38 sensors embedded in the vehicle's frame. The ride is a little bit juddery. The motion sensors are so sensitive they'll stop for anything that could be a possible obstruction. But to be frank, in 30 years of riding taxis in China, this is one of the safest drivers I've had. But the autonomous taxis have become a hot talking point in China, not for their safety record, but because of their price. Fares begin at 50 cents, only a fifth of the cost of an ordinary cab. As China embraces automation, people are worried about the human cost.
I'm definitely worried. I'm worried about losing my job and income. I have to work, I have to live, I have to survive.
Already new prototypes have been seen on the streets, and the fleet of driverless taxis is to be doubled by the end of the year to 1,000. Little stands in the way of progress here, even if it's seen by some as a dangerous path. Tony Cheng, Al Jazeera, Wuhan.
Make sure.
And that is certainly becoming a reality. And you're hearing it about in Wuhan, of course. A few years ago, Wuhan was all about the COVID-19 virus, but it's certainly a whole other matter today. But we're going to take a little pause at this point because I think we've been able to make contact with Mr. Raul Harvey. Mr. Harvey, are you there?
Yes, I'm there with our colleagues.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks for joining us. Now, of course, many St. Lucians would know your long-standing association with the St. Lucia Cuba Solidarity Foundation Association. And we wanted to get a sense from you, because I know, of course, you are a great admirer of the Cuban people. You've got lots of Cuban friends, lots of Cuban contacts. You have a very good sense of what's going on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about the current situation.
Well, Cuba is on an embargo now for over 60 something years. And it is having a devastating effect on the people, on the daily lives of the people. It is really hurting the people. And that is one of the things we'd like to have done. The lifting of the embargo plus the removal of Cuba from the list of sponsored terrorists. These are two outstanding things that the Cuban people would really like. But coming back to on the ground in Cuba, the Cubans have learned over the years how to survive. And they make do with what they have. It is not always the best, but they make do. Like I said, they've learned to live, under the embargo or with the embargo. But they need help, Brother Calix. As you probably remember, which I was very happy to hear you mentioning a couple of days ago about the electrical outage,
right,
which badly affected the country a few days ago, last week. It is back to normal now, but this is something that could happen again anytime because the equipment and all of that Cuba is using is very old. So that's one of the things that they have to try to fight and struggle against. As you know, today was the voting at the United Nations for the removal of the blockade on Cuba. I don't know if you got this out yet.
I did note that.
Nations, yes, it is. And the vote was 187 countries around the world voted against the blockade on Cuba. Voted against and
Sorry, I think
remember the two that up.
We just lost you there for a little bit. So you're indicating that vote 187 in favor of removing the blockade. That's in the United Nations.
Yes.
2 countries voted against.
Yes. 2 against. I'll be honest with you. I didn't check the 2 countries, but we could probably say Israel and the United States.
Okay.
Could assume, I should say. And 1 abstention. So the world is against the blockade, and it's hurting Cuba in a very bad way, Mr. Calix. But one of the things that bother me a lot is that we have many graduates, many people who graduated from Cuba, and I don't get the sense of concern from those people who have benefited.
Right.
It hurts my heart, I'll be honest with you, to think that the Cuban people continue to make this sacrifice. Not only for St. Lucians, but for the world, for the Caribbean. And people don't seem to care. Like I say on my Facebook, just by visiting is showing your support in one way or another for Cuba.
Now you
I would like some people.
So you gave a statistic to
again?
me. You gave a statistic to me earlier on in your message. 1,500 St. Lucians have benefited from studying in Cuba.
Yes.
That's an astounding number.
Yes. And I wish my good friend Peter Lancico, who is a very strong and active member and supporter of Cuba, would come and say something about that, because this is a big community that could make an impact and that could help Cuba in some way or another. Now there are some, not all that are negative. Not all of the graduates that are negative. There are quite a few that are very helpful and very appreciative and show that from time to time. But the vast majority are not. So I would like to draw attention to that. That Cuba is going through a very difficult time presently, but it have been for the last so many years. But of recent, things have gotten worse. Everyone I speak to in Cuba, it is a problem. It is a problem. It is one, shortages of food, shortages of this, shortages of that, So I wish we could really do something, especially the Cuban graduates. I really wish they could, because there is a Cuban Graduate Association here.
Right.
I wish they themselves could do something along with our local association, to help the Cuban people. This is a call up.
But Mr. Harvey, I mean, I do know that, as you rightfully said, I mean, there's been this embargo around from since the 1960s. But there
Mm-hmm.
was
1961.
but so say 10 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cuba was actually at a very good place, in terms of
Very good place,
its
but don't
economy
forget.
growing, its tourism was happening. We saw lots of modern, the idea of Cuba with all these ancient
Yes.
cars from the 1960s.
Yes.
There were lots of cars,
Yes.
modern cars on the road
Yes.
because of returning professionals who worked wherever they were working.
Yes.
They came back and they were making great contributions.
Yes,
it's a major turnaround.
Don't forget, Brother Calix. Yeah, don't change everything that Obama did. Obama, I will be honest with you, Obama, although he's not my favorite president, he did do something to try to help Cuba. He did make a move. And that when things started to look up for Cuba. But then Trump came,
right,
put everything behind, and Biden have not been very helpful either. The Biden and the Harris team have not been helpful either. They have even make things worse in many cases for Cuba. So it is so hurting, like I tell you. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's ironic because I said it's ironic, of course, because they're not getting any kind of support from Cuban Americans in Florida who traditionally vote Republican. No. So yes, it's interesting that they have not been able to show greater support or empathy towards the situation
for the Cuban
there.
people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now the next thing is that this United States elections, don't expect very much, if anything at all, to change with Cuba. I don't know if Harris will do like Obama did, and if she wins, which I hope she does. Although it's looking very, very tight for her too, because I had a lot of black people.
Hello.
That these people are supporting Trump. These Western people, with a lot of local people, St. Lucia included.
Yeah.
Jamaicans.
Yeah. Very, very strange. Very, very strange.
I find
situation.
it so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and not
to understand.
Not just within the West Indian community, but also we're seeing certain migrant groups, even like, for instance, as you've seen recently with Michigan and the large Muslim population that is there, and many of some of the leaders coming out and indicating support for Trump.
I don't understand that. Even with this LBG, how do you call it?
LGBT
community type. Yeah. Which the Democrats are pushing. That have hurt them a lot. From my understanding, that hurt them a lot. I don't know where they're going with this. I really don't know where they're going with this. One guy was relating to me that he was in the airport, at an airport in Miami. I don't remember which one it was, and he in the bathroom, you could use either male or female. Female.
Hello?
That's hurting the Democrats. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, sorry, we lost you just for a little bit. Yes.
Yeah,
so certainly,
the reception.
Certainly, a lot of diverse issues in the mix in this upcoming election, and of course the matter
United States election.
What is ironic though is that in the matter of immigration, which of course the Republican Party has not certainly been very favorable towards, a worsening situation in Cuba may in fact lead to increased immigration, a bigger issue of refugees.
Yes.
So I'm not
too
sure.
It is happening all right now. It is happening all right now, Alex. I mean, because some people, I mean, they're, as a matter of fact, this morning I was probably sending you the clip of a boat from Ciego de Ávila. That's the northwest of Cuba, where loads of going to Miami. And so the people are hurting, and I guess when you're hurting, although they're Cubans, they're genuine Cubans, they like their country and all of that, but you got to eat, you still have families to feed, very unfortunate. Well, anyway, Alex, I just hope that our own people here will do get up and do something more for Cuba, because they can do more than we're doing, you know. And the Cuban graduate community, you know, I've mentioned this to the president of that association, Marlene Alexander, who is the president of our association. She will do her best and continues to do her best. But I guess it's got to be a team that got together and do something on a national level, not just one association, but all the associations get together and do something for Cuba.
And quite recently, at the 85th anniversary conference of the Barbados Labour Party, Mia Motley made an appeal there as well.
Yes, I heard that.
The role of CARICOM, you think, is CARICOM? You know, I mean, of course, we've just had trying to assist in terms of Haiti. But in this, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I'm saying, I mean, there were just attempts by CARICOM to try to assist in the situation with Haiti. Still a little bit up in the air in some regards, but is there? I mean, I know that the CARICOM has consistently been speaking at the UN for Cuba year after year, but in terms of what she was saying, seeing what more tangible cooperation and support could be done.
Yeah, we could do. That's what I said. We as associations have to get together and plan some big activity where we can make, get a substantial sum of money and clothing and foods and things that we can send to Cuba that will make an impact, because they do need it. They do need it. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Harvey, Mr. Rod Harvey, for sharing with us those perspectives on Cuba, of course, as it continues to face some grave difficulties economically and socially at this time. We don't have very much time left at all, but I did want to touch on a few other matters. I'm not too sure how we will be able to actually get through with that. One of those that we were hearing about is that of Grenada, and it looks like they may be onto something big in terms of the exploration of oil and gas. Of course, in the waters of Trinidad and Tobago, we do know that that exists. And quite recently, I was following a clip, I think, from from the St. Vincent Times, covering this matter of Grenada and its a recent oil deal. I think we've got a clip for that, which we just want to share in our final moments. I think it's only about 3 minutes. Is it? Yes. Okay. So let's just share that quickly.
Hey guys, what's poppin'? It seems like Grenada has strike oil and it's going for broke big time. So Grenada is on the move and we got some really, really good news for you. Let's get into this one right now. It says OceanGate Oil and Gas partners Global Petroleum to unveil Caribbean's largest oil and gas project. Guess where? In Grenada. That's right. OceanGate Oil and Gas Engineering has secured a historic multi-billion-dollar deal with Global Petroleum Group to launch one of the Caribbean's largest oil and gas ventures. That's right, in Grenada. So first of all, we got to know that this company is coming out of Nigeria, which I'm really happy for. And the other company that they're teaming up with to do this exploration gas venture is GPG, which is a Russian company. I'm happy it's not American, or Grenada would really suffer tremendously like Guyana. Right now, Exxon just pulled out 14 billion. They only give Guyana 1.9. It's like really, really horrible. But let's continue with this big news. This transformative partnership aims to develop Grenada's significant hydrocarbon reserves, paving the way for the island nation to emerge as a major energy hub in the Caribbean and beyond. With a vision to fuel long-term economic growth and sustainable development, the ambitious project promises not only to elevate Grenada's energy production capabilities, but also to foster job creation, infrastructure development, and technology transfer within the local economy. Guys, this is huge. This is really huge. Leave your comments in the section below. Set against the backdrop of the Caribbean's evolving energy landscape, the venture is expected to provide unprecedented economic opportunities, delivering benefits across sectors and positioning Grenada as a key energy supplier in the region. So you see what's happening here, right? Grenada is already on the up and up. But guess what this is going to do for Grenada? It's going to change the landscape and provide unprecedented economic opportunity.
All right, that clip I said coming from a Vincentian source there. So certainly an interesting story to keep following in terms of Grenada. It has been one of the countries which has been looking at its oil and gas potential, including Barbados. And so we'll have to see how this in fact pans out by way of how realistic and how quickly such a project can in fact materialize in the case of Grenada. Mentioned there, of course, of a Nigerian-Russian partnership. And of course, so we'll have to see how that too, of course, all pans out in terms of the geopolitics at play right here in the Eastern Caribbean. Of course, Guyana has been enjoying tremendous benefits in terms of its oil and gas of late and continuing expansion of that, but lots of controversy over there too, and the government itself having great concerns in terms of the its partners and whether in fact they are playing fair by way of the royalties and commissions and payments that are in fact due to them. So of course already we've seen a number of rather open frictions between the government of Guyana and companies like Exxon Mobil. But we'll have to take that up perhaps and a bit more on our program tomorrow, as we, of course, are already out of time here at the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. So we hope you can join us for that. I'm your host, Alex George Jr., saying goodbye.